It's a little frustrating from our perspective to have people saying, well, is he going to follow some kind of a policy line that the church has? We have
Early in my Senate career, I had occasion to visit with President Hinckley, President Monson, and President Faust. Towards the end of that interview, I asked them if I could ask a question about this issue. I told them that I had been characterized in my campaigning as disliking gays and lesbians. I do not dislike them or anyone. And I wanted to know where the boundaries are. I told them, if you want to know my position on issues in relationship to culture, they could find them in my bishop's handbook, and those are how I voted.
Yes, we have a long record in the church of not interfering with public officials, some of whom are on all sides of almost all public opinions. There's been no evidence of any effort to influence that in any way.
I just can't stress what it means to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to have which we've had five temple recommend carrying high priests in the United States Senate, and a large number in the House of Representatives. What it means to the transaction of business, to have access, to be able to influence decisions, to reach beyond our shores. And as I said in my introduction, what Senator Smith has done, and I could say the same for our other brethren of both parties, it is of inestimable value to this church. And I hope that in the days and years ahead, that the miracle of these brethren being in Washington will be repeated, and that worthy brothers and sisters of this church in this country and in other lands will rise up and find ways to be in elective office. And
the members understand that. Political candidates understand that. They don't ever come to the church and say, what should I do?
Though I can't remember any Latter-day Saints that were permanent members of his staff, it was fair to say that his staff in the Senate was church broke. In fact, not many months ago, his legislative director called me on the phone and he said, "Ralph, you haven't called us for 6 weeks. What are we supposed to be doing?"
We've got a long track record of the people who run for office, who are members of this church, representing their constituencies, representing the people, and doing the very best that they can for all of the people.
But what I regarded as my role as one who regards his temple recommend as more important than an election certificate.
I stand as a witness of his tireless advocacy for the vital interest of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. For in my experience, he always stood ready first and foremost as a high priest and as a covenant member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saint, and receptive and able and willing to serve its most vital interest in Washington and, in fact, internationally.
On the way to the airport, I didn't call my staff. I called Elder Hardy, and I hope you brethren know that Elder Hardy is a lawyer, but I don't know when he ever does any legal work. He works full-time for the church. And I said, "Ralph, if there's any way you can go to the ambassador's home, he's expecting you, codify this as best we can." I believe we have a mission in India now.
Two.
It started from that meeting, and this is the way that you ought to use Mike Crapo, the way you ought to use Harry Reid, the way you ought to use Orrin Hatch and Bob Bennett. These are great men, these are great colleagues, and they're dedicated Latter-day Saints. And it was my privilege to respond, not often enough. When he would call, he didn't call enough, but when he did, we saw miracles.